What's shake, my friends? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Shay, and today we're going to do my January wrap up. Now this video is late because I have been ill in the last of January, 1st of February, so this is a little bit late. My memory may be a little bit hazy, but we're going to try to wrap up January, and I can tell you guys exactly how I thought about the books. I thought that I started the year with a bang. I loved it. I feel like I had just such a great reading month. So what I'm going to do is I am going to tell you that I read 9 books in the month of January, which was a total of 3,783 pages. So to me, that's about where I normally sit as far as page count wise goes. I want to start off by telling you guys what kind of goals I hit, because I feel like that's really important that we're being positive about the month. So I'm going to start out my wrap-ups by doing this from now on and telling you guys what kind of goals I hit. So I read 4 owned books, so that's fantastic. I completed 2 series in January, and I read 2 self-published books in January, so I feel like I am going in the right direction of where I want to be in my reading. Now, I did read at least 1 book from each of my jars, and I read 1 sequel. So I completed my challenges for the month of January. My jars, I completed them. I did not take a punishment for February. As we go along in the books, I will tell you exactly how I came to read that book, and we will go ahead and get started. As always, we are going to rank these books from my worst book of the month to my best book of the month. And here we go. First, I had 1 DNF, and this is no fault of the book. It is a fault of mine, and that's going to be The Hills of Heather and Bone by K.E. Andrews. So this is a beautiful book. This is a cozy book. This is a great romance book. It is actually beautiful inside and outside. I just was not for me. I'm not a cozy girl, but I highly recommend this for somebody who likes romance, somebody who likes minor fantasy, somebody who really truly likes kind of flowery purple writing and just overall beautiful writing. So highly recommend it. It just wasn't for me. But I did pick this one up because I was reading the Spiffo 9 finalists. Coming in at number 9 is going to be It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover. So how did I get to read this book? I was trying to fulfill goals, and one of my goals, of course, is to finish a series. So I said, well, what book can I read that will help me finish a series? And I have a couple of duologies and a couple of last book in series that I have to read, and this is one that I had on my radar that I really needed to read. So this is the sequel to It Ends With Us. And so I can't tell you much about this book because it would spoil it, but I did end up giving this book 3 stars. I overall felt that it was, like a lot of people say, that this is Colleen Hoover's money grab. I don't think Colleen Hoover needs any more money. Let's get real here. I don't think she needs any more money. I just feel like, you know, as you're trying to stay relevant, and given that This Ends With Us was a very popular work, I felt like she needed to write more in the story. But I honestly think that was a detriment, because while I still liked the characters, but I didn't like what was done with the characters, and I felt like there was really no purpose in the book. So I'm going to leave it at that. I really still liked, I know that It Ends With Us is a very controversial book. I still liked it. I still like It Ends With Us, and I'm sorry. I'm one of those girlies. But this one was just so-so. Coming in at number 8 is Only If We're Lucky by Stacey Willingham. I came to read this book because I pulled it out of my new releases jar, and I gave it 3 stars. I have read the other one that All the Dangerous Things that she came out with last year, and overall really enjoyed that book. I think this one just kind of muddled up. It was muddled up. Everybody was just an unlikable character, and I can get down with unlikable characters if there's some kind of redeeming quality about it, but there was no redeeming quality about these girls. Like, I just couldn't. So at the beginning of the book, we obviously find out that our main character's friend something's happened to her. She died, and she goes on to college without that friend, and then she makes other friends, and then we know that a boy has also died in the present. And so it's the classic thriller thing to do, where we start to see what happened in the past and what has now happened in the present. So I just didn't like any of these characters. They were so unlikable, and so it drug the book down for me. Coming in at number 7 is Seven Faceless Saints by M.K. Lopp. And I picked this book. I did draw it out of my own jar, but before I read this book, I had already fulfilled the owned jar prompt. But I said, hey, I can read another owned book that, can kind of, hit a goal, which is to read more owned books, I'll read another book. I didn't have that much time left in the month. I thought, hey, this is short. I can get through it. Plus, I have this beautiful Fairy Loot edition. Seven Faceless Saints by M.K. Lobb. I think it's a YA. Is this a YA fantasy or an adult fantasy? I cannot recall. But it was fine. There was nothing groundbreaking about it. I do think that I thought the romance was okay. It was nothing to write home about. But basically, in this world, there are saints. And of course, there's going to be a man. That our main character, there's two main characters. There's the male lead and there's the female lead. Our female lead and our male lead used to be lovers. And something happened and they're on wrong sides. One is for the rebellion and one is, of course, not. He is allegiant to the empire. And so they turn enemies because the male lead no longer speaks to the female lead, or he just started ignoring her when he came back from the war. She doesn't know why, but it makes her hate him. And so this is kind of like a second chance romance, so that's kind of why it pulls it down. I'm not a second chance romance girly, but there are some mysteries in here. They're trying to figure out murders, who's murdering these people. And this is, I believe, a duology, and the second book in the series comes out maybe next month or the month after. But I thought it was fine. I actually want to continue on in the series. It has a very divisive, rating on Goodreads. I think it's like a 3.5, which is a lot of people liked it, and some people, it was just average. So 3 stars. I think I will read the next book, seeing as I think it's just a duology. But overall, it was fine. Coming in at number 6 is The Wickwire Watch by Jacqueline Hagan. And this is a mix of genres. So if you watched my Spiff09 blog, which is why I read this book, you will see that in the first 100, I was really, murder mystery, some fantasy, so we're learning about the world. In the middle, 200 pages was like a cozy fantasy. Okay, we're cozy fantasying vibes. And then the last 100 pages was again, we're in this epic fantasy again. So it kind of didn't know what it wanted to be, which was kind of what knocked it down a little bit for me overall. But so I gave it 3 stars, but I overall really, really like these characters. We're following, we open up the story with this journalist and this pickpocket, and one of the members of the community has died. This old man has died, and the police find out that he is a colonist. We don't know what a colonist is, but it's very shocking that he is a colonist. And so our journalist tasks our pickpocket with going to see if he can find anything in the house that ties him to the colonists. And so during that journey of the pickpocket, he finds a pocket watch, and then some magical things start to happen, and I can't say much more than that because that would be a spoiler. But overall, I enjoyed it. I do think there's a found family in here. I do think there were a little bit too many characters for me to like the found family, but I am interested in continuing on, and I think this is going to be quite a long series, which sometimes puts me off, like, why is it taking you so long to wrap up these mysteries? I don't know. But hopefully the books can continue to keep us intrigued. I definitely do want to move on to the next book. Coming in at number 5 is And Then I Woke Up by Max Devlin. I think I'll pop it up in here. It is a novella. It is a horror novella. I pulled this one, I think, out of my backlist jar and thought that it would be a quick read. It was going to get my momentum going for the month of January, and I ended up really liking this. This is kind of like a zombie apocalypse. I don't want to say too much because I feel like if I give enough information, because it's a novella, it will spoil the entire novella for you, and I do not want to do this. But this is a zombie apocalypse, but not really. And that's all I can say about that. But I really, really enjoyed it. I felt like there was good social commentary, good conversation in this novella, and I would highly recommend it. Coming in at number 4 is The Last Housewife by Ashley Winstead. I gave this book 4 stars. I chose to read this book because, number 1, I wanted something I could listen to on audio and not have to also immersion read, like visually with my eyes. Number 2, I read In My Dreams I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead like 2 years ago. Loved it, gave it 5 stars. Haven't read anything else by Ashley Winstead, so I picked this one up. I do think that this has a lot of trigger warnings, so if that bothers you, check the trigger warnings. This is following our main character who, finds out that her friend from college has died in the same way that her other friend from college died years ago while they were in college. So then this podcast comes out and said, well, I don't think she died of suicide. I think it was murder. And so it draws her back in to try to investigate if it was murder or if it was suicide. And that's where the trigger warnings come in, and that's where I can't say anything else really about this book without it being a complete spoiler. But honestly, it was just batshit, and some of the things in here were just crazy to me. And I gave it 4 stars. I overall really enjoyed the book. Coming in at number 3 was The Bleeding Stone by Joseph John Lee, which I read because I pulled it out of my self-published jar. And let me tell you something, I really didn't have any expectations going into this. You know, as you're picking out self-published novels, you really don't have a lot of reviews to go off of. So I had no expectations going in. So it blew me out of the water. So this book follows a group of people that their land has been conquered. The conquerors have built an empire on this land and basically swooshed them up to the mountains and killed a bunch of them off. We are following these groups of conquered people. Specifically, we are following a girl there that kind of is looked down on by her people for reasons, and I'm not going to say spoilers, but she is looked down upon for reasons, and basically some things happen in the village, and it's basically turns into a revenge story. And how are we going to get revenge on these people that have conquered our lands? And great commentary in here, and I just overall really loved the story, and I want to move on. The second book is out. I think it's a trilogy. I don't know when the third book comes out. I hope soon, because I'm going to jump in. I think it does come out soon. Maybe this year. I'm going to jump into the second book, hopefully sometime really soon, because I enjoyed it. There was a cliffhanger, of course, at the end. And the way this book played with time was interesting. So I can't wait to dive back into the next book in the series. Number 2, I chose because it filled one of my goals, and that is to complete a series, and that's going to be The Bone Chips Wake by R.J. Barker. Yes, I finished Tide Child. I was so happy to have finished this. I gave this book 4 stars. This is actually my favorite book in the series is book 1, but I think that's because it set up this unique world, and I got to meet these characters in this found family, and I really loved it. And then that's why it's so, like, the book 1 is so great in my mind. The whole series is great, but I finished this. There were tears. I cried, and I absolutely positively just love these characters, and I now want to read anything R.J. Barker writes. And then, of course, coming in at number 1 is the first book I read in 2024, and that's going to be The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. And I read this book because I picked it out of my own TBR jar and decided to be bold in 2024, and I gave this book 5 stars. I absolutely positively loved it. I vlogged that experience. If you want to, I will leave it down below up in the cards somewhere if you want to watch my journey into reading this. But I absolutely positively loved this and could not have loved this more. I do want to continue on in The Wheel of Time. I am hoping to continue on sometime soon with book 2. These books are massive though, so we'll have to see. Alright guys, that's it. That's all the books I read in January. What did you read in January? Did you have a great reading month? Let me know down in the comments below, and I'll catch you guys later.